A nice wee quiet day at the Euros. In the space of 60 seconds, it's gone from you're going home to it's coming home. Mark Ogden, never in doubt for England.
Never in doubt. No, it was always very comfortable until the 96th minute, I think. No, come on. England have got through to the quarterfinals. So that's they've reached par for the tournament. They've got where they always expect to do at least. But, I mean, they were awful for 95 minutes and 50 seconds, weren't they? They were terrible. But they got through. And, that's all that matters in the end of the day. That performance can be dissected and looked at. But Bellingham and Kane scored the goals, the two big names. So, on the face of it, in black and white, good day for England. But I think if they're going to go any further, they have to really look at what happened, have a real inquest into the performance, change the team. But on the face of it, they won, they're through. So, positives.
Gab Marcotti. A rewrite for a journalist is one of the worst things, and everything was just ripped up and started again. What'd you make of that?
I was thinking of poor James Ollie sitting there and in Gelsenkirchen. And to be fair to him, it was, unlike that United final against Bayern and, back in the day, he then had a whole extra half hour. But yeah, I mean, that's football. It's you can be terrible and score at the end, and then you get yourself a lifeline, and then you score right out of the gate, and then you play this 5-4-1 formation. It's funny because somebody, I won't say who, but they're on this Zoom, sent me something sort of comparing. If you guys all saw the video of Biden kind of just standing there while everybody around him dances at some event recently. And I have to say, I shared it. When Southgate wasn't making his substitutions, I'm like, okay, either he really is glitching and just somehow frozen, or he really has or he doesn't trust his subs because he sees Ivan Toney on the bench, or he really has so much faith in his guys that says, all right, they'll turn it around. And I mean, I was shocked that, only the two changes really until injury time.
Stevie Nicol, former Scotland player, former Liverpool great. How different is your analysis now than it would have been half an hour ago if England had gone out?
Well, clearly the narrative changes. And you've got to say that, you always hear us talking about, listen, when you've got ability in your team, regardless of how bad you might be, you've always got a chance of somebody producing something from nowhere. And there's just no other way to describe what Jude Bellingham did. He produced an overhead kick from absolutely nowhere. There seemed no way that England were going to get an opportunity. It seemed no way they were going to get an equaliser. It seemed like they were just out. And just before he sticks it in the net, they absolutely deservedly would have been out. I mean, they've shown absolutely nothing. And just a little bit of brilliance from Bellingham. And I'm with Gab. I don't know what Southgate's thinking or doing, or you're watching them even in the second half of extra time when they're so deep. He's not on the sideline trying to push them up. He's just sitting there. I mean, seriously, I understand when you're 2-1 up in extra time in the second period, you ain't going to go pushing way up high. What you should be doing is getting a solid position, not too high, not too deep, and just hold your ground and don't let them by. But for him to be sitting there watching them standing on the edge of their own box, you're just asking for trouble, And basically, at the end of the day, that's why Slovakia lost the goal, because they were too deep as well. They should have been pushing up, because they didn't. They ended up giving those throw-ins away. They ended up giving all these corners away because they were too deep. So, yeah, I mean, this is a victory for England. But after Bellingham, it's hard to point the finger and say why and who's responsible.
Oggy, for Gareth Southgate, is it better being lucky than good?
Absolutely, because being lucky's got him into the quarterfinals. I mean, I suppose being good as well would help. He wasn't very good today, and he's not been very good at this tournament. And I think Stevie's right. The lack of direction from the touchline, the lack of changes early on, it was just mind-boggling. Because it wasn't working. It clearly wasn't working. And, the first half, you had Kane dropping too deep. You had Bellingham playing too high. You had no pace in the team. You had your defenders all over the place. Like the goal he conceded was a joke. And it's just like he's just sat there watching it go by as if somebody else would come along and do it. I remember when Kevin Keegan was England manager and he resigned famously in the toilets at Wembley by saying, "I'm not up to this job. I can't see the game. I can't see the tactics." And it was like he's playing chess and everyone else is playing 3D chess. That's what Southgate looked like. He just looked like he wasn't engaged in the game. And when he did make his change, it was too late. It was just he's got away with it. He's massively got away with it. And then he got Bellingham in the goal and running away, mouthing who else? Well, yeah, we know that Jude Bellingham was a match winner, but come on, I mean, the timing of mouthing who else after he's had one of the worst games of the tournament. Yes, he scored the goal. Who else? Do me a favour. Harry Kane was 3 minutes later when he scored.
Sorry, Augie. Am I the only person that nearly fell off the chair when the team came out for the second half and there was no changes?
And there were no changes.
I mean, seriously, you've had 3.5 games. You've had 3.5 games to have your basic starting 11 show you what they're capable of. Mm-hmm. But you've had 3.5 games, and yet you still stick with what's going on. I mean, I was absolutely flabbergasted. I couldn't believe. I was sitting there thinking, you know what? You deserve to lose. You don't deserve to win. Things are absolutely atrocious, and you still sit on your hands. I mean, I nearly fell off the chair.
Stevie, it was the 66th minute with the first change, and it was kind of enforced because Trippier got hurt and Palmer came on. So I've got the notes in front of me here. 83 minutes, 18 seconds, Eze for Menu. That was the first real change that wasn't enforced. Why did it take him so long? Did he honestly think that the way that they were going was going to get them back and create chances that they hadn't created in the first half, Stevie?
In all honesty, I don't know. I can't answer that because... Again, I don't understand why Saka's left on the field. I mean, as bad as most of the England players have been, Saka has done absolutely nothing. And when he did make the changes, as you said, and I was flabbergasted. Absolutely.
All right, I'll be contrarian. Do you need me to be contrarian and stick up for Southgate here?
Go on, then.
All right. To be fair to him, Trippier might have been injured. Personally, I'm sure Trippier is a very nice guy. I don't think he's a good footballer. And his part of the But when he brought on Palmer, he's changing the whole system. So he's changing the game substantially. He's bringing on. He's moving Palmer to the right.
Cab, can I interrupt you there, please? Cab, please let me interrupt you. You kind of what you're saying there. What you started off is kind of insinuating that we should be patting Southgate on the back.
No.
When the ship's sinking, it's a little bit late to start getting the bucket and try to flick the water out the Titanic. I mean,
all I'm saying is, it's not like he replaced Trippier with another whatever other bad left back he has in his squad. I don't know, maybe Shaw and crutches or whatever. He changed the whole system after that, right? Palmer went over to the other side. Saka went and played left back, which I thought was actually kind of interesting because when that whole Saka left back issue was raised earlier, both Saka and Southgate bristled that it would ever be a possibility because he hasn't played left back since he was 18 and just breaking into the side. And then your whole tournament on the line, what happens? It's like, okay, Bukayo, you go to left back. But I thought that's when he made his change. Was it too late? Should he have done it at halftime? I don't know, because to be honest, I actually don't think he's got that many changes that he can make with his midfield and his defenders.
Gab, would he have made it if Trippier hadn't been hurt?
Why don't you go with 3? Why are you playing him at left back? That's my argument. Why you play him at left back?
You could play Saka as a left wing back. You could play Trent as a right wing back.
You've got Slovakia way too deep, and you're still playing with 4 at the back.
And
you try to push forward and win the game. Get numbers in the box. Get pressure on the ball as quickly as you can. You don't need 4. And you don't need a guy sticking him at left back who hasn't played there for goodness knows how long and who's probably unsure of how deep or how high he should be. I mean,
which may explain why in the end they decided to defend in the 6-yard box. Look, I'm not to say praising him, but I'm saying is mega, like the change I thought the substantial change he made was, and it may have been, yes, because Trippier went out, but he could have kept the exact same situation. And obviously it changes when Palmer comes in and Saka moves to the left-hand side. That's the change he made. He obviously has faith in his people. He obviously gets Jeremy. Maybe he has some analytics nerd who tells him, oh, don't worry, based on probability, our players are so much better than Slovakia's. And let's face it, taken as individuals, they objectively are. I think Lobotka would walk straight into this England team because they need a player like that. I don't know too many others that necessarily would. Take it to extra time. They'll be tired. They will have taken off their bigger players, and then we win the game. Is it possible that all of this went through Gareth's mind? No.
No. Listen, I mean, one thing that struck me, Slovakia had a 37-year-old at right back, a 37-year-old at right back. Yeah. So put Anthony Gordon on, let him run at him, just try and test the guy's pace. Because, but I don't think Gareth Southgate has ever made a kind of a bold tactical decision. He's always played safe, and that's why England haven't won anything. That's why England fell short in the World Cup in Russia. That's why they fell short in the Euro 2020 final. So it's not in his nature to be adventurous. And I think when he put the sub on at 83 or 4 minutes, I think what he was actually doing was thinking, what am I going to say when I got to the press conference afterwards? Am I going to resign? Am I going to say this is it? Because it was getting to that point. I think he was probably thinking, how do I kind of do this? Do I resign tonight? Do I resign tomorrow? Because that would be going through his mind. That is, he's on his 99th game for England. He's getting knocked out of the Euros by the 2024 version of Iceland. He's going to have to resign. But he's turned it around. And, a week ago, he's getting pelted by empty glasses in one game. He's probably only going to win in the Euros and being knighted.
Do you think he was also thinking, those negotiations between United and Ten Hag over his extension?
Well, I think that's why he took Kobbie Mainoo off.
I was asking the question. I'm going, is it too late for him to go to United?
Well, I think he took Kobbie Mainoo off on 83 minutes to rest him just to save his legs before he starts taking over at Man United. He's already doing the United job now. He's keeping his players fresh.
The fact that a manager is within seconds, probably 90 seconds away from no longer being in position. That's how close he was to no longer being the England manager. So why did it take him as long as it did? Is it stubbornness? Is that what he is, Mark? And Gab's talking about nerds and all sorts of things. I mean, there's all sorts of things that goes through Gareth Southgate's mind. But surely, when you've got nothing to lose, you just go for it and damn the consequences.
I don't think it's stubbornness. I just think it's him. I just think it's his personality, his character. He's never been a person or a coach that's done something that's risky or reckless. And maybe it's not reckless to put a change of sub on, but I do think it's not in his nature. I think he's very methodical, and I don't think it's what he does to say, forget it. I mean, the one thing he has done in many ways to kind of suggest he has made a new approach is the way he selected his squad. No Grealish, no Rashford, bringing in the likes of Adam Wharton, Cole Palmer, being a bit bold, but he's not really played them. So he's made the big calls in his squad, but he's not really backed it up by his selection in the tournament. So I don't quite know what it is with Gareth Southgate, but I don't think you're ever going to get him throwing caution to the wind, even when his job's on the line. Because let's be honest, he looks like he's not enjoying the job anyway, so maybe he can't wait for it to end. But,
Gab,
hopefully another game or two.
I saw Gareth Southgate described as someone that would order a chicken korma with the korma sauce on the side, just in case it was a wee bit too hot. But they could win this tournament. It might not be the prettiest. They've got Switzerland next. We'll talk about that after the break. They're going to have to be a lot better, but stranger things have happened. And does he go from 90 seconds away from losing his job to suddenly having a chance to win the Euros? Does the narrative change about him if that happens?
It's international football, right? It's generally all about narrative. I don't think Gareth Southgate, for better or worse, whatever you think of him, since 2018, he's delivered big time in two areas. He's delivered big time results, which the FA care about. And he has delivered the fact that people actually like the England team again. He's seen as a nice guy. There's a positivity around it. Players from Liverpool and Manchester United don't cringe every time they're called up to play for the England team. And he's also shown that, hey, you can be the England manager and you can generally be a nice guy and a decent person. England have had some pretty nasty people in charge. Let's not forget. I don't want to name names, get myself in trouble, but you all know who I'm talking about, right? So I think from the FA's benchmarks, these things really, really matter. Now, does he play good football? Does he get the most out of his squad? I don't think so. But then again, the results are good. And I can make the same argument, and I've made this before, and I think Southgate's even made it. Didier Deschamps plays generally crappy football, and France become world champions and get to finals and whatever else. He's trying to do the same thing with England. And in international football, if you have better players and you don't concede goals, you have an okay chance of advancing in tournaments.
What about going forward, Stevie? I know you've got to do the Spain-Georgia game, so we'll get your thoughts on England against Switzerland before the break, and then we'll come back and get the boys' thoughts on that one. Bearing in mind everything we've said about Gareth Southgate, caution and everything like that, do you think that he'll finally realise that he has to make changes, whether it's personnel or whether it's tactics for the game against Switzerland? And why do I know you're going to answer no?
Well, first of all, it's sometimes facts are stranger than fiction. I mean, what he says about Deschamps in France is 100% true. I mean, they do play crappy football. We can't argue with that. And it's just a thing you can't argue with. But the other question, and I can't wait to find out the answer, is he going to go back and start that same 11 against Switzerland?
Well, I think Mark Gay's suspended, right?
Gay's suspended, yeah. So he's going to make
it right. Yeah. But certainly going forward, let's probably talk about what the front four. Is it going to be the same? It's going to be Manu, Rice sitting, and it's going to be the same. I mean, I get the feeling it's going to be the same. Personally, it shouldn't be, but it probably will be, and it will be the same crappy football, and they might just do what the French do and win.
Enjoy Spain against Georgia. We'll be back with Gab and Mark to preview England against Switzerland in just a moment. Don't go away. England against Switzerland. Mark Donaldson, Gab Marcotti, Mark Ogden. Let's start with the Englishman here. Very confident after watching a stunning performance today from his nation. It should be a case of how many against Swiss. That's the way that you would want it to be. That's the way you could argue that it should be with the talent that England have. This is a tougher game now against Switzerland. So, bearing in mind what Stevie said, do you think Southgate does what he does, makes the one change, whoever coming in for the suspended Gahey? Or do you think finally at the quarter-final stage, Oggy, that he'll become a little bit more adventurous and realise it's not been good enough so far?
No, there's no way. He won't make changes he doesn't have to make. So obviously Mark Gay is suspended, and we don't know how Kieran Trippier is, whether that was just a precautionary move or whether he has a knot that might keep him out. But the game is 6 days away, so he's got time to recover. But, you know, you could argue watching that performance that, you know, Harry Kane was probably playing one of his last games for England until England scored, because he was terrible. His movement was poor. He couldn't get around the pitch. But no way that Harry Kane's being dropped against Switzerland. Same with Jude Bellingham. Poor game, but he scored a big goal. So they'll stay in the team. And in many ways, it doesn't actually work the way that they play together, but he won't drop them. So for me, I did the bracket on the FC show the night, and I had Switzerland get into the semi-finals. I think the Swiss they're not an outstanding group of players, but they're a very good team. They're very well, put together by Murat Yakin. They've got a very good goalkeeper in Jan Sommer. They've got a well-organised defence. They've got experience in midfield. I think Granit Xhaka is having a good tournament. And up front, they've got pace and movement and goals. So they're going to give England a real problem. And you need a coach who's smart enough to outwit his opposition number. I just don't see Southgate having that. So what he needs is his big players, to produce big solo performances. But they haven't shown that so far. So this could be a game too far for England, because Switzerland are a good team. And, a lot of the fans will underestimate Switzerland because it's Switzerland. But I think England have got a real job on their hands. And I think the way that Southgate goes, he won't make many changes. He'll bring in, maybe Joe Gomez or Ezra Konsa, and that'll be it. That'll be all he does.
Gab, our really good friend, our former colleague, and dearly missed Paul Mariner played for England the only time that Switzerland beat them in a competitive game. That was in 1981 in a World Cup qualifier in Basel. It's a good opponent for England, or it was, or it has been. Is it a good opponent now, Switzerland, for England ahead of this quarterfinal?
I think it's an okay opponent, to be honest. I mean, you're in the quarterfinals, right? So you're not going to go and get absolute cream puff teams. Let me throw it back to you. And people may have noticed you're Scottish. Were you impressed by how Switzerland performed against Scotland?
We drew against them and Italy lost, Gab.
No, but were you impressed by how, I'm asking you by the Italy were terrible. Okay, so let's not. Scotland. Scotland are not as good as England.
No.
Did you think Switzerland looked so good and so dominant against Scotland?
Switzerland would have beaten Scotland in that game if they had to. That's my personal opinion. Last 15 minutes, Akanji's just saying, calm it down to his teammates. He's passing. Right. A point was enough for them. So
and then Jan Sommer has to make that save, right? I guess what I'm driving at is I think Switzerland are a very well-coached team. They certainly outsmarted and outwitted Luciano Spalletti and Italy. I think arguably they outsmarted for a while anyway, until he made the changes, Julian Nagelsmann and Germany. I don't know that it takes that much to outwit and outsmart Gareth Southgate, but then Southgate can also just keep his system simple. He doesn't have to do something sophisticated. He has better players. I wonder a little bit, Mark said, who's coming in for Gay? Looking at the options, it's either Joe Gomez, Konsa, or Lewis Dunk, right? I don't think those are three great options, but also in some ways, the Switzerland strikers, right? And Bolo will go and try to be physical and whatever, but I don't think that's really going to spook the England defenders. I think the biggest concern is the sheer pace of Ndoye and Vargas. And I think that's where you may have an issue. I mean, that's where Walker and Trippier, if Trippier plays, are going to have to be really on top of their game to go and help out. Midfield, sure, Freuler and Xhaka have been fantastic. Ebischer's been fantastic out on the flank. But it's nothing England haven't seen before. So as long as they don't play as badly, as wretchedly as they played against Slovakia, and I know that's a big if, I think England will be just fine.
Okay, you've seen enough, Gab. You've seen enough football. We all have over the years to not look for reasons why something has happened, but just to get an idea that sometimes your name's on the trophy or sometimes you're just destined to go far, even though you might not deserve it, but you score at the right time or whatever. What do you reckon about this as far as England are concerned? I'm not saying their name's on the trophy, but do they have something right now, whether it's luck or whatever it is, that will see them continue past Switzerland?
Is that the Scotsman coming out in you, Mark? Is that fear of what may happen? I think no. I don't see England having the name on the trophy. I really don't. I can see it. Look, late goal and what have you, but there are better teams than England in the tournament, and I think when they face those better teams, they won't beat them. I think Germany are better. I think Spain are better. There aren't many other teams that are better. France are probably better. So I just think that England got really lucky today, and I don't see that luck continuing unless something dramatic happens and Gareth Southgate wakes up one day and thinks, right, we're going to go for it. I'm going to make changes. I'm going to do this. I'm going to do that. But that isn't going to happen. So I'm not as confident as Gab in England's chances against Switzerland. I think Switzerland are too well organised and too well drilled, and they've got too many good players that will, like I said, England will underestimate. I think Switzerland will win.
Okay. Can I just remind everybody here about Switzerland, something that I think maybe a lot of people don't know or have forgotten. In October of last year, Switzerland played Belarus in a Euro qualifier. They were 3-1 down with 2 minutes to go. They scored twice. It finished 3-3. Murat Yakin got absolutely slaughtered. A lot of people wanted him to resign. A number of the players really gave him the cold shoulder and came as close to throwing him under the bus as you can. And now, 6-7 months later, he's the toast of the town, right? Oh, his team's so well organized. He's so smart. There's a lot of randomness in international football. And in the same way Murat Yakin changed it around and was vindicated, why can't Gareth turn it around and be vindicated? He's got better players, right?
Anything's possible.
I agree with that. And I think that, England will get some momentum from this. And if they beat Switzerland, they get into the semi-final. I think, like Gab says, that you can beat anybody on the day. So it is opening up for England. But I just think that there are too many flaws in this team and with the coach for them to go all the way. But, it's been a long time. And the name on the trophy, what Gareth said, being pelted with cups by his fans, being booed today. You do wonder, there's books been written about this, isn't it? How things turn around, on a kind of a toss of a coin. So maybe, but I don't think. I think you can sleep well, Mark. Don't worry about it. I don't think you have to wake up with nightmares about England lifting a trophy just yet.
You know what? There's 3 authors here. 2 of them might be writing a book about England winning a European Championship, but I'll give that one a miss. Let's talk about the other 2 games before we go that take place on Monday. France-Belgium, Gab, that's a tasty one. Will we see the real Belgium, or will we see the Belgium we've seen so far against the French?
It's a really, really good question. I think Tedesco's been awful in this tournament, and it kind of pains me a little bit because with Italy out, I was like, yeah, I'll go and root for the other Italian managers who are in the tournament, since we only had 5 of them, right? Far more than anybody else. I think Spain had 2. Everybody else barely had 1. Now, obviously, Rossi left us in the group stage. Spalletti laid a big turd and is out. Although sadly, looks like he's going to keep his job. Now Ciccio Calzona's out. I don't know. I think they really, really need to step it up several levels, because the thing about playing France is you can get a goal. Doku can beat 3 guys. De Bruyne can invent something. Lukaku can, stomp on Upamecano and put the ball in the back of the net. But then France wake up, and France have so much talent, so many individuals. It's almost like if Belgium score first, I could see France coming forward and scoring 2 or 3, and Belgium not having answers. This Belgian team defensively, they are not a side, I think, that's comfortable when they're put under pressure, which may be part of the reason why, he played Mangala with Onana earlier in the tournament. The problem is when you do that, you don't have anybody who can pass. So this is not a well put together Belgian team.
It's not. The other game is Portugal against Slovenia. I think I read somewhere, Augie, that this is the first time with both the Copa America and either the Euros or the World Cup that both Messi and Ronaldo failed to score in the group stages. So we're going to see the Cristiano Ronaldo train leave the station with some goals in this one finally.
Well, I saw him against Turkey and I wrote a piece and got the usual Ronaldo backlash for saying that Portugal would be better without him, or certainly better having him off the bench. And, he's still playing. He even played in the game when Martinez rested. When he rested 8 players, he still started Ronaldo. So I think Portugal got a really good team, got some great players, talented in all departments. But I think Ronaldo could hold them back. But I don't think he's going to get dropped. And, this isn't much of a... It's not one of the most mouth-watering ties in the round. I think Portugal will win this game. But I don't expect Ronaldo to be much of a contributor. Just on the Belgium-France game, Mark, I just think that Gab's right, the defence isn't the best for Tongan and face against the French forwards. But I do wonder whether people like De Bruyne and Lukaku, whether this Belgium has got one last sting in the tail just to... Maybe. And it is France, it's the neighbours. There's all sorts of kind of local pride involved. And De Bruyne was good against Ukraine in midweek. Who knows? I mean, I see France winning it, but you never know. There's enough quality in the Belgium team to hurt France, but I'm not sure. This is the game to watch tomorrow anyway. This is the title round.
Definitely. France and Portugal for you both to go through?
Yeah.
Yeah, I had Belgium before the tournament, upsetting France, just really to annoy Jules. But having seen Belgium play thus far, man, yeah, I got to go with Portugal and France.
Well, today, as Spain and Georgia is underway right now, earlier though, the best things come to those who wait. But those England fans sure had to wait a long time before they forced extra time. And to sum up the game, Jude Bellingham scored in the 95th minute, the England equaliser, and Harry Kane got the England winner in the 91st minute. Funny old game, football. Bye for now.